Thank you for joining us for this third installment of our webinar series. Today's focus is on the different advancement opportunities in Seattle Fire once you've been hired. If you missed the first two webinars, we have posted recordings to seattlefirejobs.com. Each one is about 15 minutes of information followed by some Q&A. I'll make sure to drop the link in the chat later so you can follow up and watch those. Before we get started, I want to share three great opportunities yet to come. First, Seattle Fire is hosting a diversity and recruitment workshop to help prospective applicants navigate the hiring process. It'll be in person on April 9th from 8:15 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon at our joint training facility in West Seattle. The deadline to register is April 4th. Then, on April 23rd and 24th, is a hands-on workshop for women interested in a future fire and EMS career. This will include interactive discussions and activities, panel conversations, and live demonstrations. Registration is by April 2nd. Currently, we have a wait list, but we're encouraging everyone who's interested to still sign up. And finally, North Seattle Colleges has a new fire sciences degree program. Spring classes start April 4th. This is an excellent opportunity to build your skills and knowledge to prepare for a career as a firefighter EMT. Again, look for these links in the chat. I'll be posting those here in a few minutes. Just a moment, I'd like to turn this over to our Battalion Chief, Brian Mayer. But if you have questions about this presentation, please enter those in the chat or send an email to sfd.recruitment@seattle.gov. And if you have questions specific to the hiring process and the application window open now, also send those to sfd.recruitment@seattle.gov. One of our HR specialists will respond directly to you. I'd like to turn this over at this moment to the Chief.
Thank you, Kim. Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brian Mayer. I'm a Battalion Chief with the Seattle Fire Department. Tonight we're going to be covering, as Kim mentioned, some of the advancement opportunities involved with the Fire Department without even promoting. Many of them you can get without even promoting. And we'll talk about promotions at the very end as well. So without further ado, we'll get started. I'm going to ask that you please you can ask questions while we're doing this through your Facebook, or you can also type into the sfd.recruitment, and we'll get back to you on stuff like that later. Questions revolving human resources, like when am I going to hear back from this and that, you can email those, but we're not going to cover those at the very end of the slideshow. So let's get started here. We have many opportunities within the Seattle Fire Department. As a firefighter, just a firefighter rank, we have many, many things inside, which is one of the great things about getting hired with this fire department, is that all the options that we have outside of being just a basic firefighter EMT on an engine company, a ladder company, or an aid car. And many of them are very, very exciting, and we'll go through some of those. So one of the things that the Seattle Fire Department is world renowned for is the paramedic program, otherwise known as the Medic One program. That's a work together with Harborview Medical Center and the University of Washington with a 10-week training process. So once you have 2 years in the fire department, you're able to apply for the paramedic Medic One training program, where you go through a 10-month, very intensive, a lot of high hours and training process with the University of Washington through the Harborview Medical Center. You will be working with another paramedic after that time, where you'll be working just with that one other person on a unit, responding to working with other firefighter EMTs, where you're going to be administering drugs, performing CPR, intubations, a lot of work that the doctors teach you to do for advanced life support operations out in the field. You must come through Seattle's recruit school in order to go through our Medic One program. There's no other way to do that. So somebody that's interested in this program has to come in, go through the recruit training process, and spend at least a year. And what I mean by that, I just mentioned to you, you have to have a 2-year minimum, but if you are a registered nurse somewhere already, or if you've been a paramedic in some other fire department or an entity, private company, that will also help you be able to apply in only a year. So you just graduate probation and you can apply for the Medic One program. So that's the summary of the Medic One program. Next, we'll talk about hazardous materials. So this is one of the very first special operations team that was instituted in the Seattle Fire Department around 1980. It has 11 members working each day, and it is housed at Fire Station 10 in downtown Seattle. They are able to respond regionally. We've gone over to Mercer Island, Bellevue, over to other islands up north and south before, but most of the responses are inside the city of Seattle limits. They are very highly equipped and capable. We have a lot of grant funding that comes into that, so the training that you're able to go through that is immeasurable. Very, very fun to work there. They do have high hours of training, both before being assigned and afterwards, to maintain that high level of service delivery to our citizens and the people that live inside Seattle. You also are working on an engine and a ladder company while you're assigned to that unit as well. You are technician trained. They're technician trained for mitigation, containment, and detection of hazardous materials. Next, I'd like to cover the Decontamination Unit. That is fire engine number 27 that is housed at Station 27, and they have 4 members assigned to that unit. They respond to hazmat alarms with the Hazardous Materials response team, and they are responsible for technical decontamination. Basically what that means is decontaminating our members after they're in what we call a hot zone and they might be contaminated with a hazardous material. They are also responsible for rehabilitation at all fires and buildings, or FIBs, in the fire department. Any fire that we go to, we need to be able to rehab our people so that they're ready to go again for another call. And this company is who is responsible for doing that. So that's the Decontamination Unit. The fireboats, these date back for more than 100 years with the city of Seattle. We've had some great fires that you can look at on the internet where our fireboats are alive and present. They have 4 members on duty each day. It is housed in a slip at Fire Station 5, which is just at the bottom of Madison Street and Alaskan Way in downtown Seattle. They respond to all marina, ship and pier fires, both on land and off land. They respond regionally, just like the Hazardous Materials team did. We have mutual aid agreements with other departments and entities around this area, and we have had our fireboats go to the islands, been called up to the San Juans before, and to other mutual aid agencies around the area. You also, inside the fireboats, once you're there, you have an opportunity to advance to a pilot or an engineer. The pilot is the one who basically pilots the boat, steers the boat, if you will, and the engineer is responsible for the maintenance, proper engine operations throughout the day and the shift while you're there. So that's within the fire boat. The only way you can get there is if you are already assigned to that unit. So people that come from the maritime industry typically are attracted to these assignments on the marine side, which brings us to Engine Company 5. They are also housed at the same firehouse as the boat. There are 4 members there, and it's on the waterfront down at Madison Street. They staff Rescue Boat 5 in addition to the engine company that responds to normal fires and EMS alarms. The Rescue Boat 5, seen in the bottom left part of that picture, responds to saltwater emergencies for rescues and ship fires that are offshore. They typically will not respond to freshwater due to the amount of time it takes to get over to Lake Washington. So they're the bottom of Madison Street there, and that's their responsibility. They cross-staff that rescue boat with the engine company. Next in the Marine is Marine 1. That is 4 members assigned to that unit, and they are housed at Fire Station 36, which is near Harbor Island in West Seattle. They do a lot of training with the Navy, other shipyards, and the United States Coast Guard, as well as other port authorities throughout this region. They are subject matter experts and liaisons for land-based firefighting and shipboard firefighting. So typically people that have come from the military background or have been in the Navy oftentimes are attracted to these spots in the fire department on Marine 1, or Engine 36. They are technician level trained and respond to confined space and tunnel fires. They work with Rescue Company 1, which we'll talk about in a couple more slides, when it comes to confined space and tunnel fires. They help out in those incidents. They respond to all land-based marine emergencies. We talked earlier before about the boats responding offshore in the rescue boat. This unit will respond to marina fires and things that are incidents that are on land. Marina, houseboat, and ship and vessel fires near shore would be some examples of things that this unit would respond to. Rescue 1, so they have 6 members working each day. They are housed at Fire Station number 14. They also respond throughout the city and the region. They have a high number of hours of daily training because of the disciplines you'll see in that last bullet there, which will talk about a normal day at that firehouse is probably about 6 to 7 hours of drilling every day. They are rescue technician trained for rope, trench, confined space, tunnel rescue, machinery, building collapse, tower, heavy lifting, scuba diving, and elevator rescues. I will make a note here, in order to be assigned to this unit, you have to be able to pass a rescue scuba diving course that the City of Seattle Fire Department puts you through. That's a point of note for that. The Vault Response Group, this is one of our newest special operations teams. There's 8 members on duty. They are housed at fire station number 25. Engine 25 and ladder 10 from Capitol Hill Firehouse are the ones that make up this team. They train with Seattle City Light. They respond to energy-related emergencies to include power substations, overhead power, energy storage system buildings, and the like. They protect the city network systems. That's where the Seattle City Light come in. They are exclusive to the Seattle Fire Department. No other fire department actually has a vault response group that has the capabilities that we do inside the city. Additional assignments and groups. So there's a lot of opportunities like we've talked about, and these ones in these bullets I'm going to briefly describe and talk about as well. So the training division. As a firefighter, you are now able to be assigned to the training division. That's a 40-hour work week, and we call it an administrative assignment. There are opportunities to go down and teach individual recruit schools, or there are also opportunities to be assigned down there for a while as well. Staffing officer. If you promote to the rank of lieutenant, then you are able to be a staffing officer. That is an administrative assignment down at headquarters, a 40-hour-a-week job as well, where you are basically the right-hand person of the assistant chief of operations when it comes to the staffing of our fire department. Fire prevention. We have a fire prevention division dedicated to the safety of our public and the prevention of fires. That is a 40-hour-a-week job as well, and you have the opportunity to work with other people from the public that are what we call non-uniform employees, engineers and the like. The services division. We have a commissary and we also have a services captain. So there's a opportunity, if you're a lieutenant or a captain, to go into a 40-hour-a-work-week job out of operations. And the services division basically is like they deal with supplies, logistics, and the like. The fire alarm center. If you are interested in being a dispatcher, our dispatch center is run by uniformed firefighters, both the officers and the people that are on the floor. It's a very exciting way to be able to learn another part of the fire department. That is, you would still work your normal 24-hour-a-day operation schedule there. So you'd work a day on, 2 days off, a day on, 4 days off. That's one of the only ones where you're not working in operations on a fire engine or a ladder truck, and you still keep that schedule. The tunnel officer, that job comes and goes. That's a captain, so you have to be a captain in order to do that job. But as we build tunnels, we institute the tunnel office to tunnel captain because that is a very important job so that all of our apparatus, such as Marine 1, Marine 1, Engine 36, and a Rescue 1 are able to drill, and they kind of coordinate some of those things, and as well as work with the contractors for the tunnels. As that subsides and we don't build any more tunnels, and we're kind of in a pause, that tunnel captain officer job goes away temporarily. The EPO officer, the Emergency Preparedness Officer, that is also a captain, and they work with grants and funding in order to help the fire department better prepare for those emergencies ahead. Fire Investigation Unit. So if you are interested in becoming a fire investigator, we have 2 people each day. That is an operations schedule as well. You'll be working a 24-hour schedule where you work with somebody else, where you go out and after we have fires, then you go out and investigate them. You work with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the DEA sometimes, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and in conjunction with the Seattle Police Department as well. Rescue swimmers. This is probably maybe the newest addition to ability to be able to not promote, but be able to advance to other positions. You can remain in operations and you can become a rescue swimmer. If you look at the top right there, that's an example of one of our rescue swimmers being photographed coming out. They're not divers, but they are swimmers. And they are one of the first people on scene should a water emergency occur. A lot of times they are the ones that actually are able to grab the person before the dive team even gets there. So that's a very exciting point to be in your career. And you will go to a 1-week class where you will learn how to do that. That's provided training, obviously, as well. And then Health One. This is one of our, this is probably the newest thing that's been added to the fire department. Our Health One, that's the bottom right picture, the fire chief there, along with our union president. And that's a great program where we are out there providing mental health for people that need it and reducing some of the alarms that some of the engines and fire trucks have to go on and providing better care for our public that way. Now let's talk about some opportunities that exist from outside the agency. It's still our firefighters that are going to be doing these actions and assignments, but we're working with outside agencies where the other ones are pretty much functions that happen inside our fire department. Urban Search and Rescue. So a subsidiary of FEMA, Washington Task Force 1 exists. We're very fortunate up here to have a task force we are one of many throughout the nation and is primarily built around rescue efforts. We are part of the response plan for FEMA. We are deployable nationwide. The task force is deployable nationwide, and you need to be prepared for multi-week deployments. When in that team, you can be sleeping in the rain in not so good conditions, searching around. So it's an awesome team to be a part of, and that's an interview process in order to be part of that. Positions for rescue, search, like technical search, working with canines, if you're into that, structural engineer, medical doctors, safety officers, squad lead, being a CDL driver, and task force leader are all opportunities within the Washington State Task Force 1. Aviation Group. There's 8 members assigned to this group. We work with statewide aviation assets. We were formulated off of high-rise insertion. Should a fire happen in a high-rise, we're able to insert people on the roof and take people off the roof. We work closely with the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office and the King County Sheriff's Office, mostly when it comes to aviation. We provide remote incident support should this happen on a Burlington Northern Santa Fe railroad track somewhere up in the northwest section of the city. We would be able to use aviation to be able to provide access to those areas. And we're also a liaison for the incident commander should any aerial need, such a big fire, and we wanted to get a picture from an aerial view, we would be able to call a helicopter to make that happen. Wildland firefighting. So we work with the state as a mobilization team. We respond to wildfires in and out of Washington State. We've gone as far as California before. We typically operate in the urban wildland interface areas, so more protecting homes and people a lot more than we're actually out cutting line in the field out there. These too have multi-week deployments. You need to be planning to be gone between 10 and 14 days if you plan on being on that team. And of course, you must obtain your red card for those of you that know about that. That's just a card that you obtain from the state that they bless you to be able to go out there and fight wildland fires. The last thing we'll talk about is promotion. So all of those things I just spoke about, except for a couple of them we talked about being a lieutenant and captain, you do not have to promote in order to go to those other companies or those other opportunities, which is nice. But there is a promotional route as well. Everybody comes in as a recruit firefighter. You complete your 1 year of probation, and then you're able to become a lieutenant after taking the civil service exam and promotional process at 5 years. After you have done that for 3 years, you're able to promote to captain, and then another 3 years to battalion chief. After that, there are no more civil service exams. It's just interviews with the fire chief and assistant chiefs. So as you can see in that last bar there, it's deputy chief, then assistant chief, and then if you're so inclined, there are always opportunities to be the fire chief of the City of Seattle Fire Department. That's all I have to say as far as advancement opportunities. This last slide here, I'll let you go ahead and read those, but I'm now going to open this up to questions, should you have any. Kim?
Great. We do have some questions that have come into the chat.
Great.
Just a moment here while I pull that up. And thank you so much for the detailed information about this.
You
so
bet.
the first question is, can you speak more to the minimum year requirements for a firefighter to qualify for some of these positions? Some you did state, but are there others that you could go into more detail on?
Sure. For the most part, everything's a little bit different, but for the most part, I can say that for a lot of these special operations teams, as soon as you graduate your probation, you are able to apply. Not many do that soon because they want to build a little bit more experience under their belt when they talk to other firefighters, but by the rules, you're able to apply after 365 days. Now, obviously, the paramedic program we talked about, that's a little bit different unless you're an RN or you have some paramedic experience certification somewhere else. But for the most part, it's a year.
Great. Another question, how often does the USAR team get deployed? And same too with the Wildlands team. Can you speak to the frequency with which they're called on?
That's a good question. So the Washington State Task Force is basically a division, if you will, of the federal government. And when the federal government asks for help, that's when we respond. So there's not a good number to say in a frequency, but I do work on the team. I've seen years where we've gone out 3 times, and I've seen years where we haven't gone out any time in 2 years. So there's not I haven't done the math on the average, but I would say that pretty much, within a couple years, you're going to probably get deployed. Now, within that team are different rotations, A, B, and C, or red, white, and blue. So if that team were to get deployed, that does not necessarily mean that you're going that year. There might be a certain amount of number of people that they're sending, and you might not be up on that rotation. That rotation comes every 3 months for you. So some people are on the team for 7 years or 10 years, 15, and they never go anywhere. Other people are on there for 3 years and get 3 deployments.
Right, we've got another question here. How hard is it to get a spot on a tech team once you are a firefighter?
So all of our tech teams have interviews that are associated with them. So you get a bibliography before the interview starts. You apply for it first of all. You write a letter that says, I am interested in fill in the blank team. And then that starts the process. You start studying for the interview, and it's typically between 7 to 10 questions. Interviews are typically between 20 and 25 minutes, where you'll sit in front of 3 other people, and they will ask you operations level questions. Operations meaning the training level that you've been trained to. Nobody's expecting you to know any technical data unless you've been given that data to study in the bibliography. Then they would expect you to know that, and they may ask questions of that. So that's basically the process. After that, a list is formed, and most technical teams, with the exception of the aviation team, are good for 1 year. The list is good for 1 year. So once you're on that list, any openings that come on the team, which means somebody has to either retire or promote or transfer out of that firehouse or that company for you to be able to get a spot. And it's just ranked solely on your performance in the interview, 1 through however many people passed. And you have to maintain a minimum of 60% to actually get on the list. So if you scored 59, you would, no matter how many people applied, you would not be on that list. So you have to score better than 60.
And we had another question here. What is your favorite tech team? What would you recommend people apply for?
That's a loaded question. I worked on Rescue 1 as the captain for 5.5 years, and so of course I'm partial to that. I thought that I was really attracted to the work, the people that worked there. But I can tell you that the tech teams, they're all great places to work, and you can learn something at all of them. If when I look back on that, if I would have maybe gone to a couple more, that would have been fun. It would have helped me out with my career. But I definitely am partial to Rescue 1. But those other firehouses, they're busier than where I was at Rescue 1. You can go on a lot more alarms, but it's all about what you want, right? This is a great thing about this fire department. While we're doing this, look at all these opportunities that you have there. I've seen people that have gotten hired in the fire department. They wanted to be a paramedic when they came in here, and then they were drawn to something else. I've seen people that wanted to come here and wanted to be on the hazmat team that became paramedics. So you just never know until you go through the process and experience things. But you'll find something that you'll like.
We have another question here in the chat. Can you be on the truck during probation?
I'm assuming that you mean on a ladder company or truck company, if that's what you mean. None of those, you can't be on a specialty company that we talked about while you're on probation. I know that's not what you're asking, but I just want to make sure everybody knew that. No, you will go through what we have. You'll spend 3 24-hour shifts on a ladder company to learn some of the ladder company aspects and operations. And then you'll spend anywhere between 8 and 12 shifts, or 8 to 12 12-hour periods on a ladder truck during the probation, as well as needed to complete your probationary book. But you will not be assigned to a ladder company, no.
So those are the questions we have so far. If we wanted to wait just another couple of seconds here and see if anyone has sent an email into sfd.recruitment@seattle.gov, or another couple of seconds here to drop another question in the comments.
Sounds good. Ask away, everybody. This is your time.
But just another reminder that this webinar will be posted to our seattlefirejobs.com page. So if you did miss something, a detail, and you wanted to go back, you could certainly do that here in the next day or two. That will be posted. And we put those links in the chat here as well as those to the other events that are upcoming. So that looks like that's about the end of our questions that we have for the evening.